Thank you for joining us today with Newly Awakened Ministries.
Hey everyone, welcome to Fuel the Flame Live with relationship material. We are going to be doing something where we have the majority of our team with us, where it's me, my wife April, we have Brian and Shannon up here, and then Vashti and Landon down here as well.
What up?
Yeah. Guys, we are so excited that we are going to come over here and to share with you guys some funny moments that we're expecting, some questions, some insights, hopefully some godly counsel and wisdom, and something to help make your Valentine's Day, Valentine's week just a little bit better. So, my wife, go ahead.
So we are so excited about this podcast because we know that it's about to be Valentine's, and it's going to be a great time to invest in your marriages, invest in your dating time, and also like engagement season as well. So we're going to start out with a couple funny questions that I'm going to ask everybody.
All raw in real time.
All raw and real. Okay, so my question is, what food best describes your partner's personality? Would it be salty, sweet, spicy, or sour?
Vashti and Landon, you guys want to go first?
Well, would mine be a Sour Patch?
Oh boy. Sour Patch Kid. I call him that all the time.
Yeah.
First he's sweet, then
Sour.
he's sour. Yes, first sour, then sweet.
Yeah.
Definitely Sour Patch Kid.
That's also my favorite snack too. So.
Well, what is the snack?
Sour Patch.
Sour Patch.
Yeah, Sour Patch Kid.
Sour sweet.
All right, what about you, Brian and Shannon?
That
way I can get vengeance.
I would say
What?
Huh?
he said he could get vengeance after he heard my answer. No.
So-
I feel like he's well, I know in your word salty. I feel like he's like the salt to me though. The salt, the goodness.
Oh yeah, like
to me.
the word, yes.
Yeah. That he just keeps me
Sorry.
target.
That's good. That's really good. I think I would get Andrew a spicy queso.
Ooh.
Because he gets a little spicy sometimes and like
Nice.
sassy, and he gets queso. Okay, so next question is,
Oh wait, do the guys have to answer for us?
oh yeah, guys, yeah, you didn't answer.
Go
Yeah,
for
I
it,
think
Andrew.
Brian said he was going to plead the fifth, but I'm not sure.
We're gonna go in reverse order that to first. So you first, and then me, and then Landon.
Okay, so I would say between the options, April, there's a lot of times where she's sweet, but then she can be salty and she can be spicy. And what I mean is that she can just be
That's a comment.
fierce. But the thing is,
One.
she's sweet most of the time. Most of the time.
All the time.
So she's salty. I want to sprinkle the salt in a little bit. But then, yeah.
I'm all about loving my wife as Jesus loved the church. So I would have to say that she is. I'm gonna tell the truth. It's not bad. She's like a Snickers bar to me, and this is
Aw.
actually a good thing because I love a Snickers, even though I can't have sweets anymore. But Snickers is my favorite, and it's creamy and easy. But you got those hard pieces in, and I don't mean that as in she is hard. That
Yeah.
she's just a rock, and so
Aw,
That's right,
that's so
she's
to
sweet.
me, she's my
Sweet.
world. Honestly, she is like the greatest thing that's
Aw.
ever happened. Yes.
I love that. That is so
Yeah.
sweet.
Aw.
Good. Well,
Oh, boy.
thank you for giving me time to really narrate this right.
Okay.
No, okay. Well, I actually have one question for my question. Would like a drink count? Because that's kind of more my snack.
Sure.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I would definitely best classify my wife as a sweet, bold little mocha
Mm.
Aw,
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
sweet.
because I love the bold taste, the strong, but also like the
Aw.
sweet too. The sweet, and I love my chocolate too.
Aw,
It's
I
like a
love that.
liquid Snickers. Come on.
Yes,
And she
I
loves her
love
white
that so
chocolate.
much.
Oh, that was
Okay,
sweet.
so what we're gonna do is we're gonna be doing like some serious questions and then some funny questions in between to kind of lighten the mood sometimes out of
Yeah.
a happy time. Okay, so how this is a serious question that actually Shannon wrote here is how do you know who is the right person for you?
Mm.
It's good.
All right, who wants to jump in on that one?
I'll go with for me, the way I knew April was the right one is that, before I liked some other people, I had some crushes, but every time I would pray about it, God would say no. And he would say no over and over again. And then whenever the time where me and April we were talking, and then I was like, okay, Lord, can I date your daughter? He said yes. And I was like, yes. And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, awesome. I was like, I've never been here before. I didn't think I was going to make it this far, you know. But my lesson was that I had to hear God's no over and over and over again so I could clearly hear his yes. And so for
Good.
me, that's how I knew April, she was the right one because I heard his no so many times that when his yes was said, his yes was clear, and she's obviously been the right choice. Everything.
Aw.
So the best choice after the Lord. Yeah.
Love it.
Mine was a supernatural revelation, honestly. Was at a 40 days, were they on 40 nights of worship at this church where she was attending. And I went there with my guitar player friend. We had done ministry for a bunch of years, and we went there because we just wanted to get in the presence of the Lord. And I usually sit in the front row, but she's in the front row, so I couldn't sit in the front. But she's just like radical ramp style worship. I mean, just heart pouring out fire. And literally, I saw her hair was actually on fire to me. That had never happened to me before. Like I
Wow.
look at her and her hair is on fire, like the burning bush, like right there for real. Freaked me out.
Wow.
Like, man, I need to know her. I need to find out who she is because the worship was such an aroma of the presence around wherever she was.
Mm.
Oh,
So that was the first thing that caught my eye. And then, it was a process after that, of course.
At the same time he was working in him, he told me I was involved with a relationship and I didn't feel like he was the one. And I had been through some healing and other broken relationships and some dreams that Lord was asking me to lay down. And he told me that I have something only you can do and asked me to lay down that other relationship, which was fine. And I just asked the Lord, well, I need to know what you want me to do. And I had a dream that very night, and Brian and I got into a boat together. And it was like we were at the top of this hill and we, I don't know, like a water ride almost like, and we
Oh,
and started down. So I knew
like the
God.
Lion King.
Yes. So I definitely knew, God was opening that door.
Oh,
Well, my time when I got my confirmation before I asked my wife Vashti out, I guess I just saw like things, characteristics, not so much. My whole life I'd always looked for a relationship of things that I thought I wanted, and obviously those all failed. And just I found out that those things were nice, but they weren't really for me. And when I got to know Vashti more, got closer with her, we had a deep connection. That's when I started to realize that she had characteristics that not only I liked, but I realized that were good for me. And I definitely, the Lord showed me a lot of like future visuals of like what it would look like, how she would really benefit me. Sorry, I'm going in and out. benefit me, my ministry, my walk with God, and that's really what I fell in love with the most. And so there it
Amen.
was.
Oh,
I'll never forget actually, I did the same thing Andrew did too. I asked the Lord's permission if I could date her. I remember I was on a rock by a creek and I just looked up at the sky, closed my eyes, and I just saw, I'll never forget this visual I saw of her. It was like a vision of her wearing this yellow dress, surrounded by like these yellow flowers, and like the sunlight was just shining on her.
Oh,
And I'll never
never
forget.
knew that.
It was like, I don't know, it was a beauty that was not only on the outside, but like glowing from the inside too. I don't know how to explain it, but it just really
no.
captivated my heart's eyes.
I love that. That's so awesome.
I have to
Um,
follow that. Well, to be honest, like I I feel like I knew um that Landon was my person. Like I just had a feeling, very early on, like after we started dating. But
yeah, I feel like it at first since it was
I know it was kind of weird because I was kind of blinded to him. I didn't he wasn't on my radar like when I met him, but when we started dating, it was like once I had my eyes set on him, it was like I know this is my husband. Like um but the confirmation though, like because I think there's like two thoughts when you're transitioning in relationship. There's the thought of like the ooey gooey, like, oh, I just love this person. I just want to be with them all the time. And then there's like when you practically make your mind up, like
Yes.
when you count the cost of like, okay, like if I'm gonna be with them for the long haul, like what does this look like? And am I ready to do this step with this person? Is this person worth it? Like investing in. If you're gonna invest in the rest of your life, like we've all seen relationships that have gone horrible because people didn't make great decisions. So when you're getting to that point where you're like, okay, this is my yes, and you're finding your yes and your why, what does that look like? And for me, it was actually very practical. Like I just thought, has this person, Landon, shown me to this point that he is a man of his word and he is reliable to not perfect, because I don't need perfection. There's plenty of people that can appear perfect and then you find out later that they're not who they said they were. But to this point, has he shown me you know, characteristics that are great that I would like in a future husband? And what areas is he strong in? Where is he weak? And I just counted the whole cost. And so for me, like I would answer that question. And when you're looking for the right person, to that person who either is single and is like looking to date, or somebody who's looking to get more serious in your relationship, when you're looking for that right person, make sure you ask yourself those questions. Like even the hard ones, you gotta look at
Yeah.
what's good and what's bad, because there's always, you got to make sure you really look for the bad, unfortunately, at that stage, because it's easy to get clouded, to have your judgment clouded by the handsome faces and, the nice bodies, all the physical stuff. But you got to dig deep into the heart stuff because that's what lasts and that's what matters. We're not going to be like supermodels forever, all those things
Yeah.
are paid. And what you're left with is the character of the person. So that's what matters.
Mhm.
Were any of those things going through your mind as you were chopping coffee beans in the kitchen?
Yeah, because that's the personality I'm going to be married to for the rest of my life.
Honestly, it's okay because Vashi really
that's
love
exactly
coffee.
why that's my snack I chose.
That's what got me.
That's how we started with chopping coffee.
How cool.
I love that so much. I think mine was when there was so much peace. It was just an undeniable peace from the Lord.
Yeah.
I think at that moment in my life, I didn't grow up with a great role model of marriage and relationships. And like the thought of even being committed to like a man was very frightening to me. And so I just ran for the hills anytime, anytime. Like I had like, secret crushes, like, but they were never commitments. And Andrew and I, we worked together at Sonic for a good amount, and it was the Sonic days. And I remember the Lord telling me like a few months in, like, Andrew and I would talk in the car for a long time, and it was just really innocent. Like we literally would just talk. and the Lord telling me, "This is your husband." And I remember just being like, "Nope, he's not." Like, no.
She's like, he's weird,
I was
God.
like, he's weird. Like, there's no way. And I just like that feeling kept on growing and growing. And whenever it was that time to decide, it was so navigated with peace. And the Lord really blessed me with that because I really needed it at that time. And so yeah, it was really great. I'm so thankful.
Uh, I would say was like a nuke bomb of like confirmation. Because I mean, when I was about 14, it was about a year after I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. I remember the Lord kept showing me visions of me and at an altar. I just remember seeing the short Hispanic lady over there in front of me, and I just couldn't see her face, but she was radiant. Like I just and I would have that dream over and over and over again. I was like, well, I know that's going to be my wife, and then later on, the Lord told me, He's like, your sons' names are going to. He's like, two of your sons' names are going to be Joshua David and Ezekiel Thomas. And Joshua David, he said Joshua is because it's because you've always had a close friend in your life that was named Joshua. He was like, and that's been a friend that's been closer than a brother. And for me, that's really important because I have three younger brothers and we're all extremely close. But I've always had a friend that I could tell things to, that I couldn't necessarily tell family, you know. And so, that was a really strong word, like, that he's going to be a friend that, that was closer than a brother. That was true. And then, Joshua David, he's like David because he's going to have a heart of a worshiper. He's going to have a heart after my own heart. And then Ezekiel Thomas, and he was like, and he said it was going to be with a Q instead of like a K. He's like, because your wife is Hispanic, and that's the way she's going to have a brother named Ezekiel. And so, and then she said, and he's like, Thomas, not because it's named necessarily after your dad, but it's a part of you. It's going to be a part of you living on, because my middle name is Thomas. And so all of that later on, which was even funnier, is that 2 years later, my mom, she meets a guy, his name's David, and she ends up marrying him. And he's great. So I have my dad, that his name's Thomas, and then my mom's husband, that is named David. So there's Joshua David, Ezekiel Thomas. Like, so I saw both of those in there, and then also her brother, like a name like from her brother, and then the verse the Lord gave me was like it was going to be a friend that was closer than a brother. So I don't know, that was something pretty cool. That
That's awesome.
so when
think
she
that's-
said that she had a brother named Ezekiel, my antennas went up, and I was like,
Ding, ding, ding.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now switching
Well,
over to
there's
a
one quote I wanted to share real fast that
Okay.
kind of, for those looking for somebody, obviously, since this is about relationship, and it actually came from the Ramp, and it was Damon Thompson. And I love this quote where he said, the picture he drew was run as fast and as hard as you can for the Lord, like all in, no hindrances. Don't slow down for people to catch up. You run after God because He's first and foremost. And then when you're wide open in your pursuit of Him, look to your left and to your right. And the ones that are in the vicinity are opportunities for relationship, because it should never distract from your pursuit of Him. And so for us, that's game changer for the rest of my life. Was when I met her. She is running every bit, if not ahead, strong after the Lord as I was. And I was pretty radical. And so I'm just like, wow, it's a whole different gamut of relationship when you don't have the contention on the spiritual side of things, where first and foremost it's the Lord. And then when the relationship, she doesn't have to slow down for me to catch up. I don't have to slow down for her to catch up. We're like just running wide open, which is it's such a beautiful thing and very understated, I think.
wow, love that. I love that. We'll go to another serious question is, what are some boundaries that you guys set during your dating season that really helped you do your marriage?
Toilet seat up or toilet seat down? I'm kidding. That's you know, marriage counseling, it is a good thing. You do need to address all those issues.
Mhm.
Two independents come together as one, so there's going to be stuff. But for us, our number one for both of us was, regardless, it will not dishonor the Lord or we're out. That just was a hit and miss for us, right? It was either
Um,
it's going to honor him or we can't do this, period, because he has to be first. And that's
Yeah.
hard when you're in that goo moment of the relationship,
Yes.
because it's very easy to be emotionally connected right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I came from a very broken relationship prior to also. And so like there was so much healing that God did in my life through her. And yet we could still run wide open. It was just such, there's like phrasing out of a song. I can't remember. It's like a beautiful something. And the word's like chaos, but it's like a beautiful picture when he puts it together, you know?
Mm.
I love that.
He was my friend. I don't know if that's where you were going with that, but above all, he was my friend, my best friend.
Bestie.
And that really has been a good foundation for us, in that he's in my corner. It don't matter what happens, what struggles I have, what things come down the pike. He's my best friend. And although we're married, he's my confidant. He sometimes I'll say, I need to talk about something that's hard. Could you put your friend hat on? Because
Aw,
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you on that, Shannon. That's one thing that I definitely put into thought before I got with my wife was I remember my mom even told me that too, is Landon, if you get with her, one thing I definitely urge you with is make sure there is a friendship, because that really is kind of a big foundation of your relationship with that
Mhm.
person. It all always goes
Yeah.
back to like that closeship, that friendship that you have with them. And yeah, definitely, I guess for me, that's what I always, that helps a big boundary with us when we were starting out, was that I just always remembered, like, okay, this is, not just my lover now, not just my little playmate, but this is like, someone that I can confide in, someone that I can share deep secrets with. And I never, want that to be broken. I never want to take advantage of that or destroy that
Mhm.
ever, because at some point eventually, you share like your deepest thoughts, your deepest things with them, your
Mhm.
secrets.
Yeah.
Amen. So
So boundaries, I would say pre-marriage. I remember there was a time that, just being honest, where it's getting harder and harder. Once you know you're in love and you know you're gonna get married, it starts to get harder and harder to, quote unquote, wait, for marriage and be pure before the Lord. And I remember a time where me and Landon sat down and we talked, and Landon said, he was just very like, he ripped the band-aid off. He said, look, if we're hanging out and things are starting to get a little too hot and heavy, he said, I'm just gonna get up and go home. Like, I'm just being honest with you right now. He was like, your feelings are probably gonna be hurt. You're probably gonna be a little bit upset, but it's gonna be for the best. And I literally remember he literally would, if I was just getting a little close, or he was getting a little close, he would literally get up and just leave, like walk out. Like he would get up and go home. Like he would not care. He would just leave. And I remember the first time he did, I was like, wow, that's really savage. Like I felt kind of like a little bit disrespected. And then the Lord showed me that was like the highest honor. Like that's like,
Mhm.
he values you so much that he literally is restraining himself from crossing a boundary and taking something that he has not rightfully owned yet. And so, anyways, I just love that about him in our dating season. And then I would say on the other side of marriage, a boundary, because boundaries don't ever stop, they just shift.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
on the other side of marriage, a boundary that we have is a boundary of integrity. So just like struggles did existed when you were single, struggles exist inside of marriage as well. So one thing that we really operate in is if we're ever going through anything, if the enemy's attacking us with anything, we're going to be honest with each other about where we're at. And so we regularly check in, with different things that we know that each other have dealt with in the past. We're just very open and honest. And we say, okay, these are the cards that were being dealt. How are we going to navigate them? And we always, always, always have kind of set this precedence that he is not the problem and I'm not the problem. We are together and we may have a problem that we're facing together, but we separate each other from the problems that we have, which that's very hard for people to do in relationships sometimes. But yeah, that's just another boundary that we have in marriage on this side of marriage.
I love that scripture talks about in the Bible about not awakening love before it's time. And kind of going back to what she was said, definitely when we were dating, I think the biggest thing that also helped me with boundaries as far as that goes was I had just known, from like in the past, if you rush things too quick, it's going to ruin it and it's going to be more painful in the future. And I just knew I really I took my time with her, honestly, when we were starting. I took my time making a decision with her, making an execution. And yes, I did definitely stick to my guns that I did not ever want any kind of struggle at all when we were just hanging out alone late at night. Was it easy? No. Was it hard? Yes. But I guess what really helped me so much, and I hope that I can encourage any of you out there, listening, is when you don't want to ruin things. You really don't, because in the moment it'll feel good. It will feel like you'll feel like, you're inseparable. You cannot be broken. But when you really do awaken love before it's time, there's just something special the Lord has for you, like in the waiting, the process of it. And it's just like so much better that way. And I definitely just did not want to ruin not only, our potential of relationship, but just like I said earlier, I did not want to ruin a friendship as well. And I did not want to add another person to my list of somebody that I used to know. And so that's definitely a good helper when you want to keep boundaries with that person.
Yeah. And it's not like because that have already crossed boundaries and stuff. And that's not, I wouldn't hear his heart in this. It's not, there's nothing that's necessarily I wouldn't say ruined, but I would definitely say that it's because God has set that standard, then you don't get the fullness in that season of everything that you would receive as if you would wait. That's really more so what it is that each person that God has created has so much value, and the strength and the power of marriage and sex and all these different things that come after marriage are so strong that they are worth waiting for in the right context because they have so much value. That's really more what it is that the season when you want to make sure that you're fully prepared and you've said your full yes, so that when you get to that season, you're prepared to stand on it and you haven't given it away prematurely before you've made that decision. That's really kind of, that's what it comes down to, I guess.
Amen. That verse, Song of Songs, chapter 8, verse 4. That's a great verse.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so awesome. I think something that Andrew and I did was like really get around good spiritual leaders. Like we had, because like we kind of worked out some kinks in our like relationship that we've gone through a lot. But we were so thankful for like the people that actually did like get to like help us through that time. So I think one boundary is having leaders in your life that is going to really invest in you and it's going to call you out when you are like acting foolish,
Yeah. So
and not doing good, because it is so easy to really go down a really, really wrong path. But you just need those friends and those leaders to identify that and to really call you out. And so I would definitely say a boundary is to be around good leaders that are gonna put you in the right path when you really need it.
Yeah. And then, especially like in marriage, it's like, as we have our series of Fuel the Flame, first of all, we all know it's like we draw close to the Lord, and it's we draw close to the Lord, we draw close to each other, there's a unity that is formed, that we know that. But one thing that you want to do, which I take the letters of Paul whenever he says keep the unity. He talks about keeping it in the body of Christ, but I would even say like even in marriage, it's like keeping the unity. So one thing you don't want to do is empower I would say empower each other or make room for the enemy to create division. And so for one thing, me and April, we already said it's like one boundary is divorce is not in our vocabulary. Even if we get angry or whatever, that is one thing we will not stand on. We've, when I was younger, when I was in middle school, my parents, they started their process of divorce when April, when she was in elementary school, her parents got divorced, and it's a pretty tragic thing. So we already have some images of a broken marriage in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and so for us, we're like, okay, we've seen how it could be wrong. It's like, how do we keep it whole? And we all know that it's only through keeping it in unity with Jesus and with each other. And then, I've even seen things like with like even in my mom's life where, things not didn't necessarily work out with her and my parents, but with her new spouse, God redeems, God restores. And I can even would even say like with Vashti was saying earlier, there are people that they may fall. There's relationships where they may fall into sin, where they would cross boundaries, but God, He is still faithful to restore. All they have to do is return back home to Him. It's like we try to trade in and inherit, like with a prodigal son. Father would just give us what we want. He's able and He's willing to redeem what was taken, what was stolen, what we tried to give away. Our Father, He wants to redeem,
Mhm.
He wants to restore, He wants to make whole. And so with if there's people out there that they can feel like even if they've done something to another person in their relationship, if they've hurt another person, or like if they have not ended it on good terms with other people, and they might feel guilt or shame or condemnation from it, just go to the Lord about it. And I would even say, because He's wanting to make you whole, He doesn't want you to carry on that baggage. He doesn't want you to carry on the shame, the guilt, just the heaviness. Because why? He wants to trade in your heaviness for joy. He wants to, he wants, the Lord gave me a word for a really close friend this week, and He was showing me parts of his heart. And He said, the Lord's about to take what used to be a stronghold, and He's transforming them into pillars. And he was like, basically, there were situations in his life that God was about to do a 180 in, where there was something that used to keep him captive. God was going to turn into situations that were going to keep him upright. And so, I mean, I even believe, the Lord, go to Him, like, seek Him out, and you will see that He is faithful every time.
And I love that because like I think like even in marriage you're gonna have hard times. Like there's gonna be times where you just want to just I'm like I identify that I'm a runner. I'm a runner. Like when I see things, I want to run. Like
I'm not perfect.
run for the hills.
Oh
Like
man.
and you don't want to face them. You just want to just go. And I have come
Right.
like an enemy. There's a time where the enemy, like he finds that weak point and he just hits you hard with those thoughts. He
Yeah.
hits you hard with like that, okay, well, what if this, the what ifs, or the doubt questions. And I have come that in those moments, instead of like biting the fruit of the enemy, I operate into the fruit of the spirit, and that's operating peace and self-control. And like knowing that like when I abide in Him, like and also those emotions are so fickle, they come and go. they're not lasting. And so I remind myself in those hard moments, okay, Lord, where are you? Like, where are you right now? And like, I remind myself what you said over my marriage and our
Mm,
relationship. And
yeah.
and then I'm like everything else, all those like fickle feelings, they're not sustainable as to the promises that you have already spoken over my marriage. And so then I make a like a decision right there. I'm not going to buy the fruit of the enemy. I'm going to stand hold and steadfast into what the Lord said in our marriage. And so that's my process. That's my inward process when the enemy is hitting me hard in my thoughts. I have to literally tell myself, April, make a decision. Who are you going to, like, what choice are you going to make at this moment? Because the choice that you make in the tension creates your future. It really does.
Mm, that's
So
Mhm.
good.
very good.
I do want to add, for me personally, came from a very abusive background. And so I had a lot of trauma. The Lord had taken me through a process of healing. And but there's always those deep layers. And so, I agree with what y'all are saying, but for me, in that moment, I had to say, God, is this a me problem? Like, is this an issue with me that you're trying to bring healing? Is this a he problem? Like, is this something from his past, or is this a we problem? And more, I would say probably 95 or more percentage of time, it was either me or it was an issue with him from his past. And once I resolved my stuff and he resolved his stuff with the Lord, then we didn't have an issue. That makes
That's
sense.
good.
Mm, yeah.
I love
It,
that. That's good.
it's like you gotta stay focused there, the word, he's so clear on the word. Especially love your wife. Treat her
Yeah.
with honor, respect.
Mm,
She needs to be on the pedestal, and that's not about idolatry, but that level of respect,
yeah.
that level of integrity. And I mean, this is my best friend in the whole world, period, first and foremost. And then everything, everything for me. And it's like the Lord is so amazing. I could never understand what authentic, right marriage is outside of our relationship. Never experienced anything like this before. I mean, it truly is a supernatural. When they say one gets at 1,000, two 10,000, like when your marriage is a godly thing, you go into a season of prayer, and you guys are both running at that same
Yeah.
high octane. It's fire. I mean, just
Yeah.
devil might as well pack up and hit the deck because
Mhm.
he's getting taken out. And I
Yeah.
love that intensity. There's no questioning. And it's like a lot of times in a relationship, you find people, they get caught up with jealousy. Oh, wonder what's going on there. Oh, she's working around guys. Oh, what's going on there? And when it is of God, you'll quench that. You'll take that thought captive, and then you'll begin
Yeah.
to pray for your spouse. And
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like instantaneous. God begins to move. And it's like it's a struggle that they were going on. Devil manipulated the struggle to look like something else, but you both get set free in the same moment by just decreeing what he says
That's true.
and standing on it. So huge power with that for sure, big time.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of something you just said because it sparked something in me. When you were talking about that verse where it says one can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 2,000 flight. An old pastor of where we went to church at, we're at the ramp, and his name was Tyler Brown, and he would say, like, it's not that they couldn't each take out 5,000 on their own, but they needed the other person to pull it out of them. They needed the other person to pull the other
Good.
for 4,000 out
So
to
good.
take on. So, like, one can put 1,000, two can put 10,000, but they need each other to pull it out of them to do it,
That's good.
to conquer and to have that victory. And I was just really thinking it's like almost like that well, the song, like I think from the 80s, it's not a Christian song, but it says like, the woman of you brings out the man in me. And I was just kind of thinking of that song, like that part of the song, just because it's so true. It's like a woman acting in the purity of the role of the woman will pull out the strength of a man in a way, and then
Yeah.
also the same way the trueness of the strength and the masculinity of a man will pull out the femininity of the woman and just show that beauty and reflect that beauty. And you know what I mean, like you pull that out of each other.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good because the Lord put us together for a reason. He said, let there be man and woman, man and wife. God said it. All right, so let's do a funny
Let's do
thing.
a funny one. Okay, so this is a funny question.
Uh-oh.
What is your partner's strangest sleepwalking or sleep talking episode? If you guys have it. I have one. What's it called?
I'm not gonna like me saying sleepwalking.
Fine.
Is, does that mean sleep talking too?
Yeah, sleep talking. Sleepwalking or sleep talking. I have one. What's it called?
Sounds like she's been wanting to get this one off her chest.
You got excited when she saw this question.
I was like, one day I was just, scrolling social media. Andrew was asleep, and he said, April, the door. And I'm like, what? And he was like, the door. And so I was thinking, okay, did I leave the door unlocked? I was like, no. And I was like, Andrew? And he were like, I was like, what's wrong with the door? And he's just snoring. And I'm like, I think it was just hilarious to me. I think that's the only one that I remember at the top of my head. It was hilarious.
What was this?
Baby, you're asleep.
Oh. Well, anyways, there was one time when it was early in our marriage when we were in Alabama. I had just walked into the room. April was sound asleep. And I'm about to go in the bed, and I'm like, man, April's like kind of close to the edge, kind of like where I'm like rolled in my spot. But I'm about to go in. I'm about to creep my way into the bed. But before I do, she stretches out her hand, and then she goes like she's like reaching out for me, and she's completely asleep, and like she's like reaching out, and she finds me. And then like she pulls me close to her, and then she just like relaxes and goes back to sleep. Oh, that was some.
Did I make noises? I used to make bad noises.
I'll tell you, when we were dating, he would sit in the chair and we'd sit and watch a movie. And as soon as we sat down, he'd fall asleep. So I painted his toenails one day because he did that. And then he didn't realize it for a couple of days, and I just happened to be there when he looked down, and he was so confused.
My goodness.
You know what? You can't get her because she sleeps so light. Busted. If you attempt, she can hear a mouse crawling. Like you gotta. I'm gonna get her one time. It's gonna be hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be totally out.
Oh, Lynn and Vashti.
Well, I can't really think of like one time that did it, but I do. She does something like every time she does like start to go to sleep. So I do notice like whenever she starts like getting tired, and it's just like what makes it better too is like I'm such a night person. So like nighttime, I come like wide awake. I come alive like at nighttime. I don't know why. Like as soon as like the moon comes up, I'm just like full energy. And it's just the opposite too, because in the daytime I'm still like dead. She's just like just so bubbly and bright.
Mary Poppins in the morning.
And so
Aw.
sometimes
Aw.
like at nighttime we'll be hanging out and I'll start like just wanting to talk about deep things. I'll just like start rambling, I think. And then she really will she'll be listening and she'll be engaging with me. I'm not like boring her, but she will like start falling asleep and start like drifting. And so like I'll still be talking and I think that she's still awake. And I think she'll be like trying to respond or whatever. And sometimes she does this when I'm not talking, but she thinks I'm talking, but she's like trying to make sure she's nice to respond. And like I'll hear her like when she's going to sleep, she'll just kind of be like, so, like she always says this all the time when she starts sleeping. When she starts falling asleep, she's like, "Oh, praise God." It's like every time I hear it, I just agree with it. Like, yes, praise God, baby.
That's awesome.
If he hears that, praise God, he knows it's over.
Yeah, as soon as I hear that, praise
Cut it short.
I'm trying to think of one. I can't think of one for you. You're not really like that much of a sleep talker.
Talk about how I like to cuddle even in my sleep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's like a cuddle bug, I guess, in his sleep. Like when he's
Aw.
asleep, he still likes to snuggle, and he's like
Yeah.
dead asleep, like Andrew said about April. He's dead asleep, but he's like, because I mean, I know when he's sleeping for real, so it's not like he's aware or cognizant of what he's doing. He just naturally is migrating over to snuggle, but
I never remember doing it too.
no, he never does. Oh, that is also weird. I can like wake him up in the middle of the night to kill a bug or something, and he literally would not remember it the next day. He's like, "You woke me up." I was like, "Yes,
Doing that.
it's a big bug, and I was not gonna kill it." Because I'm like, I get up sometimes like it could be like 3 times in the middle of the night to go, use the restroom or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like my bladder is just like that. But he won't ever remember if I wake him up. I'm like, I literally woke you. I screamed at the top of my lungs. And he won't remember. That's so weird.
When the
'Cause
lights are out, the lights are out.
Yeah, when they're out, that's it for him.
When I sleep, I'm done. Don't bother. I'm
It would
done.
have to be like a big
Aw.
episode of like he was awake for a long time. But if he just woke up just to kill the bug and go back to sleep, no, he don't remember.
So
But yeah.
I have a funny. Well, it's supposed to be a funny question. What was something funny that happened on any of your early on dates, like on any of your early dates?
Yeah, that's one of my questions. What was the most awkward
Oh.
moment?
We have one.
Go for it.
It's not, no, not, oh, you can tell that one.
Mm-mm.
So
Go for it.
which one was, this was 111, right? The day we went on 111.
Was it Birmingham?
Guys, oh my gosh, we drove. So I got off work. I think I was working that day, right?
So yeah.
I was working that day. I got off work. We got all dressed up nice, and we were going to Birmingham for a nice date. We had picked out a really nice restaurant. We had like planned like our place that we were gonna have dessert at and everything. Tell me
Aw.
why we both we've never done this. It's usually one person forgets, but then we have a backup. Tell me why we both left our wallets in Hamilton. And we're all the way in Birmingham.
Down Alabama.
The gas tank is on E, and we and neither of us look, and neither of us have our wallets.
I'm talking by the time we get into the city, like by the time the skyscrapers are there, that's when we realize
We go to fill up the tank.
Like
and
an hour and a half away.
Yeah, Landon's like, oh, he's like, I forgot my wallet, and I was like, oh, that's okay. We'll just use my cards. Literally, I go to reach in for my wallet in my purse, and what happens is I changed purses because remember going on a date, so I changed the purses, and I did not transport my wallet. So here we are in the city and no money. I was like, what are we gonna do? We were so like, oh my gosh. But anyways,
That happened to us recently.
Recent. Oh my gosh.
Someone, she holds my wallets when I go out there to places, and she swapped her purse.
Oh my gosh. It's such a struggle.
So I was just driving out there with well, I'm not confessing anything. But
So I'm not gonna say any crimes. This might incriminate
Oh
me.
my gosh. So what did y'all guys do?
Well, I was ready to just go home. forget about
He
it.
was upset. He was like, I can't believe this.
But my little full of hope here, she's always like finding a way. She's so smart, dude. She can always find a way to like get us out of any kind of hole we're buying. And so, what was it
Aw.
you did? You just thought to like use a picture.
I said, no. I said, we're not gonna go home. So you know how you have like Cash App or whatever,
Yeah.
and you can have like they have like the digital cards or whatever. I said,
Mhm.
well, I said in this day and age, most places can like type your card in or whatever. So I said, let's go, let's call. So we had our cell phones, thank God. I said, let's call Shell and see if we get, let's explain the situation, and if we give them our card number, if they'll just type it in and charge us like that. Well, they said, yeah, sure, we can do that. So
Right.
then we decided to say, well, let's press our luck even more. Let's still go to the fancy restaurant that we were going to go to and see if they'll do that.
Yeah, we first tried at a gas station. It worked there.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
able to
tried
fill
the
up.
restaurant.
And the reason we waited is because the gas prices were way better. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll fill up. We had, it was only an hour change drive. So I was like, we literally were on E. It was like if that didn't work, we couldn't even get home. Like we were gonna have to be like,
Oh
oh
my
my God, somebody
gosh.
wire us the
Couldn't even get
money
home.
or come pick us up.
Oh,
So anyways, like we did that. And long story short, the guy at the restaurant, it was really fancy. And at the end, he was like, he said, I know I told you yes on the phone, but he was like, I just don't. And I said, look, I literally, thank God we had, it was January. So we had just been preparing to do our taxes. So we had pictures of our of our IDs on our phone. Thank
Mhm.
God. So he said, well, because I can see your IDs here and they matched your virtual card numbers and stuff. He said, I'll go ahead and do it. But he was like, I can't promise that I would do this in the future. He was like, please don't screw me over. And we were like, I promise we're not scammers.
We really had favor that
We're
night.
yeah.
We
That's
And then I said, look,
awesome.
one more time, and we went to the coffee shop, and then they did the same thing. They typed it in. So
yeah.
that's how we were able
Oh,
to
so
figure it
awesome.
out.
We got to do everything still just
Yeah.
with that. And
That's
I found out that's
good.
actually one of our best dates we've ever had.
Wow, that was one of the funnest ones because we had
Oh,
I really learned after that like sometimes when you like put too much pre-planning into something beautiful and trying to make it special, it's not as good as like I don't know when you like get in that struggle and you like just have to really rely on the Lord for it and you like really try to
yes.
make things work, you try to make it work and you just still push through.
yeah,
That ends up being some of the best times.
yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
awesome.
Aw.
Brian
right.
Shane.
Ready?
We're ready.
Well, I just wanted to share, oh, he knows I'm gonna do
I
it.
am.
Well, like I told, I had a lot of abuse in my background, and so when you're spending time with someone, you look for flags, right? Like, is
Yes.
he real? Is he not? When's the other shoe gonna drop?
Hmm.
Well, we had gone to the store, and he had a case of water he was carrying in from his truck across the parking lot to go into his apartment. And sometimes when you carry them by the plastic, they fall out the side, right?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Like, yeah, I know as
not
well.
one fell out, not two fell out, like half of the carton fell out, and they're literally bouncing all over.
Oh man. I hate that.
And he's trying to walk through, and he's so angry.
And that's the beginning of the mess. I didn't know it at the time either. So I was already physically starting to feel those issues.
But his anger, he like kicked a few bottles, and then he went around and picked him up. He was over it that fast. And I was like, I'm going to marry that guy.
Aw.
That's great.
One day I was playing a prank on her. So when we met, I was in a band called Spoken in Silence, and it was worship, but it was very heavy. Okay. So we were opening a show for The Letter Black, which is very heavy. And I didn't think she would ever come to this show in a bazillion years. So when she did, it like totally blew my mind. I'm like, oh, she is definitely the one.
Yeah.
Because if you get in that intense in worship and you like some metal, that's like double cherry on top, right? So we had been there, and we just, because we're best friends, we're sitting one day eating, and she starts singing, I love you, Jesus, I love you. And she's like headbanging, right? And I'm like, I just start videoing her. She's like, you, I love you. And then she realized, she's like, you're recording me, aren't you? It was so awesome. Like, yes, and that was a treasure. It was so amazing.
Aw.
That's not really a thing, but it was so cool. I don't really
That's awesome.
think I have any crazy stuff.
Well, I mean, my vows.
Well, yeah. How about this for your premier wedding with the mate for life that God has ordained and shown you with confirmation of burning fiery head? You get to the altar and it's time for people's vows to be given.
They're
I'm giving,
pre-recorded.
they're pre-recorded. We pre-recorded them, but we didn't know what they were. So, because I want to be able to look at her in the face and not stumble over my
Aw.
words so that she could hear what my heart was saying. So
Yeah.
I start giving mine and I'm like mouthing the words and she's kind of like looking around and I'm like, what's going on here? This is like my vows to you. And then I clunk and my son passed out, hit the wall, almost knocked out. He is standing there. I guess he locked his knees, fell
my
over,
God.
hit the wall, banged against the grand
Oh.
piano, almost knocked out. I'm like,
What?
take two. But he was okay. So when we get to her, and she's like, she plays it. She got that big grin, and I'm like, she's being a prankster, I can tell. But I'm ready to hear what she's gonna say, right? Here comes. Roses are red, violets are blue. You wanted wedding vows? Will be still. The whole place erupts in laughter, cracking up, and I'm like, oh, why could you do it
My
at moment? You just
gosh.
laugh. I'm like, man, high five. You totally got me on that because I was always the prank. She like got me totally blindsided. Had no clue. So the whole place is rolling for probably 5 minutes.
Oh.
Oh man.
Pranked up a wedding vow, but then she laid the good ones on and they were amazing. But I got to give her props on that one.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
That's
That's-
great. Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
Oh
funny.
man, I would
Very
love to be at a
funny.
wedding like that.
Oh my
I've
gosh,
never
that'd
heard
be
that. That's
hilarious.
great.
It's pretty crazy.
Something that happened, like I have something that happened from when we were dating early on, but I'm going to share a quick something that happened in our wedding. I'm going to let April share, then I'm going to
No,
share
you
them
go
from-
first, baby, because I don't know.
Okay. So when we were getting married, we had a very long wedding. Vashti and
my
Landon
God.
can attest to that.
Oh,
And
Lord.
I mean, like
Still
literally, it was
hurts.
about 2 hours
He's
of a
still
ceremony. Like I'm telling you, we
In
had
high
worship for
heels.
like
In
40
high heels.
minutes.
I
Oh,
Yeah,
healed.
like we had everyone walk down. We had worship. Like on the side, there was someone prophetically painting on the side. We had a foot washing. I gave a short message right before the foot washing. We did a whole bunch of stuff.
No
I mean,
fire tunnel afterwards.
God.
the fire tunnel was in
Oh.
the thing. Like the thing is, everyone is up there, and I mean, I can already tell that the ladies, they are getting uncomfortable after like 30, 40 minutes. And after worship, you just see that my wife that probably looks 3 inches taller just drop all of a sudden.
Oh my gosh.
She keeps her high heels because her dress is covering her feet. The bridesmaids don't have that luxury because all of their feet are showing with their high heels. I remember seeing the look of disgust on Roxy.
The level of
It's just
anger. I
face.
immediately
And-
looked at her.
I still talk about that to this day.
Like, yeah, I remember all of the ladies were like,
Jeez.
right?
She literally went from her heels, your heels made you like just a little bit shorter than me, just a tiny bit. Like we're almost eye level. And she literally just looking at Andrew, she just goes, I was like, no.
In my mind, I was thinking my feet were hurting so bad.
I knew
was
they
just-
were because yours were really high. Your heels
Yes,
were
my
really
feet were
high.
hurting, and I thought, I'm not gonna let my heels stop me from enjoying this moment. It's my wedding, and so then I was like, I'm just gonna
I learned
take
to
'em
never
off.
again. If I would have had slip off heels, I had to have the kind of heels that were like strappies, so I couldn't slip them
Yes.
off. I promise you, I'm not even kidding. I wouldn't have been embarrassed. I would have took my shoes off standing up there if I could have, but they were like, it would have been very obvious. I would have been like stuck out like a
Oh
sore thumb. I would have had
man.
to bend down and like unwrangle them, and
Oh,
it would have been.
Especially now, because you have to
So-
pull me over now.
So tip to anyone that is getting married, listen clear. Brides, get your bridesmaids slip off heels if you're gonna have a long wedding on the stage. Get the really nice heels for the pictures.
You're probably not gonna have as long as the wedding as we.
Wear flats.
Or
There you go.
well, Scott, you're probably not gonna have up to how long was the wedding? Like an hour? It
That's nearly 2 hours.
was 2
Yeah, it
hours.
was like 2 hours. Just
But it was
just
great.
ceremony.
I
Just
love
ceremony.
it.
Okay, so when we were dating, like as you know, you are skeptical of everything. You think that the sun, the moon, and the stars are trying to talk to you, but you really know you're listening to God, but you're looking for all the signs. Well, you know, me and April, we go on our first date. First thing we do is we go to go pick up movies from the theater, the movie tickets. And I'm so nervous I can barely speak. Like I'm stumbling over the words to get the tickets, and April just has to order them for me. And then we go to sushi at a great place called Oishi's. It was phenomenal.
Oh, man.
Went to the theater, and then afterwards, you know, we got dinner because like we had the sushi was very light and small, and so we got dinner afterwards. Well, anyways, before we went, I took her home. We went to this place where we started going stargazing. And so we were out there, we were admiring the stars, you know, we were being close with each other, but you know, we were public, but we were just like talking, looking at the stars. And when we did, all of a sudden we see a cop just roll up beside us, and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing out here?" We're like, "We're just looking at the stars." And then he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Have you guys seen anybody around here?" We're like, "No." He's like, "We just had a prison break." Just be sure you were safe. And we're like, "Lord, are we supposed to be together?" I'm just-
Yeah.
and then if that doesn't make it like the next date we go on, I'm trying to remember what exactly we did. But again, we got like questioned by the police for something. We were like, and it happened like 2 or 3 times after that. We were like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was actually really crazy. I've never gotten questioned with the police ever until we started dating.
And we weren't doing anything. We were outside.
Yeah, we were following, we weren't like breaking the law. It was just
We were just sitting outside.
we're just in like the wrong place at the wrong time sometimes. Like,
Right.
yep.
You know
Well,
you
I
get
think.
You
Go
know
ahead.
you get
Sorry.
the right one when you get up in the middle of the night because you want to see the red moon, right? And you know, she's tracking and she's making sure she's going to get me up in time so we can go see the red moon. And it's snowing. It's like horrible weather. Visibility is terrible. We're looking and we don't not see anything. And I'm like, I see it over there. And so we get in the vehicle. I had a 4-wheel drive truck, so we drive there,
Aw.
and we got about a half a mile from it, and it was a red light on top of a water tower. There was no red moon. There was no nothing but a red light on top of a water tower. But she just laughing, and we're just having a good old time. And I'm like,
Nice too.
paying up. So we recorded it and posted it on Facebook. First sighting of the red moon. And everybody's like, where did you see that at? I'm like, it's right on top of the water tower, right outside so and so. Oh, it was so funny.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Oh,
Wait,
Because
if we get to next
I know. I just got one more quick thing. Okay, this one's not really funny, but it was pretty significant for me and April. One time, you know, me and April at this point, we were like 9, 10 months dating, maybe 11 months. But you know, we knew we were wanting to get married. We've talked about it. You know, I was already ordered the ring. I was just waiting on it to come in. You know, it took a couple weeks, and but one day I went over to her house and I was carrying a lantern. two things. I was carrying a lantern and it had a metal handle and it had a live flame on the inside. If it has a
Oh,
live flame, guys, use something to hold it because that hurt after a while. It started getting hot. And so me and April, we were going out, we were walking, and we were going down this road. We were probably about 3/4 of a mile down. Well, anyways, we hear it start thundering. We're like, oh boy, we need to probably turn around. So we're turning back. It's starting to lightly rain. We're in no hurry. And then out of nowhere, just heavy like storm showers just come down. I mean, it is dark. It is like dark, dark. The only light that we have is in this lamp. And I mean, the lamp is full of holes on the top. And I'm like, man, this lantern's going to go out, and we can't pull out our phones because if so, the rain's going to ruin it. Before the day when everything was like waterproof. And so I have a thick undershirt, and so I take off my overshirt. I'm covering us as much as we can. I mean, it's still like seeping through, and I have the lantern in the middle of us, and we're running. Well, we finally make it all the way down to the house because we see the light pole at the beginning of the apartments of the driveway of the apartments. So we run down, we go over to her door, and I'm like, we made it. And when we looked down, the lamp was still burning, the candle was still going. Out of all of everything that was going on, all of the adversity, everything that could have taken it out, it still withstood the storm.
And
praise
it
the
kind of
Lord.
it was like a adrenaline rush. I remember, and I was thinking, this is like the best moment in my life. I was like, this is like the best moment right now. Like, I think it was my inner Aztec coming out, like running through the rain, like feeling the nature in my hair,
Was
like
your inner
the fire.
Pocahontas?
Like really feeling it. It was really fun. Okay, so now we're going to the next question, and this is going to be more of a serious question. Is how do you guys solve problems as a couple?
I mean, I shared earlier how that, I have to go before the Lord, and is this a me issue? What are you trying to reveal? Is it something you want to heal within me?
Yeah.
Him the same for himself. Is it something you're wanting to heal in him? Is this whose issue, if it is, and then if it's our issue, then we need to address that. And so usually for us, it takes some time because you have to process, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
things you have to sort through to understand what is the source of what's going on. And then I think when we are able to put it in words, then we have to wait for the right time for both of us to be able to talk it through and process it. And we realize, there's things that I could do differently, and there's things he can do differently. And then, we're friends. And when you have that foundation, and we love the Lord, we
Yeah.
want to honor him. So it's like a win-win.
Huge.
Mhm.
Patience is a virtue is an understatement, honestly, because
Head feeling.
we can be very quick to respond out of that emotional episode or event. And a lot of times, the word says, and a lot of people's always like, follow your heart, but the word also says the heart can deceive you. So you still got to be careful because it's all
Yeah.
about the Lord. And so when you can just be silent and then really give it to the Lord and get his input on it, it can change the entire outcome. Like a lot of the stuff going on in culture right now, it's because people's short at the handle, man. They got a short wick. They just want to explode and judge and condemn. And there's really no point for most of it. It's just all a ploy of the enemy to take people out,
Yeah.
rob identity. For me, my goal is always, I need to fight for her innocence and her character, because that's the most important thing to me. Number one, that's the Lord's daughter that he blessed me with, that I get to do life with. So his princess, my queen. I've got to do whatever I can to honor. And if that's eat crow, then I need to eat crow. If she needs to eat crow, she needs to have a double portion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We own it, but then we agree together, and then we resolve together, so that it's like a team. It's like a team effort still. So when I breathe You know, I might inhale, she's the exhale, and she exhales on the inhale because that's just how we work. So, like
Mhm.
this weekend at the Send, just the revelation of how we operate as a unit on a day to day is so, it blows my mind still once we come to tears. How the Lord uses, because I'm seat of my pants flying a whim. I'll just be like, yo, let's do it. Yeah, woo, let's roll. And she's like, I got these 10 things on this list that have to be done before we can start that, which is great because it grounds, but yet there's
Yeah.
still that spontaneity that she chooses to walk into. So it's like so balancing. It's amazing.
It's good.
That's good.
Like the
I guess I'll just piggyback off of that. I think that's exactly like very similar to our process. I spoke a little bit about it earlier too, but the first thing is to fix the problems that you have to identify that you have one. So I think sometimes we can just be beating around the bush and then not really nailing something down. Like there's something going on, but you don't really want to address it. So you kind of just let it simmer. Now you got to address it. Say, hey, there's an issue here. You got to be confrontational, and address it, call it out. And then, like I said, we always make sure that we identify the problem. Like if there's two sides, we make sure that we're both on one side together and the problem's on the other side. And so we're attacking the problem together.
Good.
But very similar to what you said in your process, Shannon, is okay, what's going on here? Is it something that he needs to work on? Is it something that I need to work on personally? Is this something that we're facing together? We're both dealing with, just kind of quickly identifying that. And sometimes it's not quick, like it takes a process. Like, life has to still life. So there's times where we have to put a pin in something, even though we're both charged up and we're like, let's deal with it now. No, he still has to get up and go to work. You know what I mean? Like, we still got to go minister to these kids, like our youth group and stuff. So we just got to put a pin in it, and we might not get back to it until, 2 weeks later when it bubbles up again or whatever. And then you finally get to address it. But, like whatever that looks like, you just got to make sure that you don't neglect. Like, you got to make sure that you actually address things. And then that's how we do it. We make sure that even if we don't get to it initially, when it does come back up, we get it, and then I was gonna say one more thing about it. I can't remember what I was gonna say. I just had kind of somewhere that I was going with it. Oh, don't let your problems like overtake your relationship, because problems, they're here today and they could be gone tomorrow. Solve them and move on. Like, once they're done, just let it go. Don't hold on to anything, because if you hold on to anything, that's where bitterness and resentment grows. And that is why people end up unhappy in their relationships, because they don't know how to just move on, let go and let go.
Yes.
There really is true resolution. Like, I've seen people ruin their relationships over a problem that's already solved, more so than actual problems that they have right now.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
oh, he
good.
did this to me and I just can't move on from it. Oh, did he apologize? Yeah, but it was enough. You know what? You just gotta, you gotta forgive and move on. Yeah.
That's good. That's
So I
really
guess,
good.
Can I
the
add
only
one
thing
more?
I could really, sorry.
No. I just
I was
wanted to
gonna say-
add the humor. What you're saying is so good. The humor and finding the humor in the process too.
Yeah.
We have to lighten it up. We have this song, and you want to sing it?
No.
You were wrong, and I was right. Here's your something song. What is it?
Yeah. I
Dang
can't.
it.
Anyway,
We're not giving away no
but
secrets.
it's funny. It lightens up. That's all I
Yeah,
wanted to say.
you were
That's
right. I was wrong. Here's your favorite song. You do. You just ad lib, make up goofy lyrics every time.
Oh, I love
I laugh
that.
the
That's
whole time.
hilarious.
He cracks up, but after a while, I'm like, verse 99, and you still only have none. I'm wrong, you're right. I just make it goofy, but
funny.
honestly, you got to have humor in it. There's got to be humor. There's got to be humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be laughter because laughter is healing. And if like you can see past that conflict and
Mhm.
that
Yes,
irritation to where's
so
the
true.
value. And I love what you said, Vashti. That is like a gold nugget is neglect. Don't neglect the union that he's put together over a temporary issue.
Oh, yeah.
So good. That's
Agreed.
good.
She's amazing.
Well,
So Landon, yeah.
those songs, Brian, let's add them to our worship set list.
I love that.
Yeah,
Well,
It's a form of your intercession.
it's awesome how they're. I'm like,
I really like that. I've actually never heard of that. That's pretty awesome.
oh my
I like
gosh,
that.
that was a genius
Serenade
idea.
me with the song. What?
So, we all
I like
know.
that. But no, like my best problem solving I've learned in a relationship, what I can think of the most is secrecy is always your enemy. The enemy thrives in secrecy a lot in not only your own personal life, but also if you have secrecy in a relationship,
Mhm.
the enemy is going to thrive off that because that's what he wants. And
Yeah.
there I've learned that there is no problem that is too horrific or too grand for you to face that your spouse cannot face with you.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
when you tie the knot, when you make that covenant, you get really serious with that person. It's when you really start to realize that, their problems are also then yours. Yours are
Yeah.
theirs. And not as like a bleak kind of thing, but like honestly an encouraging thing that you are not in that alone. Like God really designed
Yeah.
relationship in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Like they are your exemplifying of the Lord in our lives. And so, like I think it's been kind of just spoken a lot now from a lot of us is, just be upfront, open about things, and never hold back anything. Like, they're gonna find out about your whole childhood, find out about your past. They're gonna know your family, your
Yeah.
traumas, your
Oh boy.
excuses,
Oh
all
boy.
so, just, put it all out there.
Yeah.
They see your
Good.
underwear already, just put it all out there.
You go first. Are you gonna go?
That's
Okay,
good.
I don't know if anyone knows this about me, but you guys know I'm competitive.
No.
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 So for me, the one who forgives first wins. So in
No.
part,
Right.
that's not all the way true, but the one that forgives first wins. And so, that's what I've heard pastors say. I know our pastors say they're like, hey, if you're willing to forgive first, you win. And
Yeah.
so no, it's not letting it go, but like because I love to analyze sections of like conflict resolution, not just within our lives, but I like to deal with others. So I like to get the tools to do with mine. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but at least I try. That's a lot what it is. It's trying. I love to hold on to the principles that that your conflicts are testing the connection of your heartstrings. And so, every like a lot of your conflicts are going to test your connection and they're going to either try to break you or they're going to make you. They're going to make you stronger or they're going to try to cut those cords. And so it's just how you handle those situations, how you handle that conflict, it's going to see like it's going to define how it strengthens your connection.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
real quick on that one. And so I want to say like the conflict can lead to stronger connection. Jesus did it with his disciples all the time. And he was like, hey, are you guys going to leave me too after the crowd left him? He says, Lord, you're the one with the words of life. Where else can we go? Because he just literally just fed the multitudes where it went from thousands and thousands of people to hundreds of people that were looking for the sign. And then it went to a handful of people. And then it's like, and then whenever it led to his crucifixion, there was the one. The closer you get to the cross, smaller the audience. But the thing is, all those conflicts were testing their heartstrings. And then, I love a book that I'm so thankful Miss Melody Morris, she gave us in our marriage counseling, which was Love and Respect. I think about that book a lot, where it talks about how the verse that husbands love your wives, wives respect, or you could say honor your husbands. And it talks about how it's ingrained in it. So sometimes I'm mad, but I also want to keep in the back of my, or in the forefront of my mind, am I speaking out of anger? Or am I speaking out of love? Am I treating her with love? Because the word literally instructs me to love. And so for me, a lot of times showing love is trying not to get angry and holding my tongue. It's like literally trying to have the self-control, like biting my tongue and just wait, just waiting for me to cool down and knowing, okay, here's a rational thought, so we can solve this and we can deal with this. Because we usually feel like our lives are very full, and so with sometimes full schedules, full time comes a lot of conflict. And we're not conflict even in between us, but just situations you're consistently having to handle in life over and over again. And so it's like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with this? And sometimes when I pray about it and I'm like, the Lord said, you need to do this, and I'm firm on it, and she wants to go one way, and I'm like, we need to stand firm on another. I'm like, hey, this is what I heard from God. We need to stand here. And then when I pray about it and I heard what she said was right, I'm like, okay, let my pride down, April. You were right. You're definitely right. You're more
Get
than
to
right.
sing the
You're almost
song.
always
Sing your
right.
song.
Gotta sing the song.
Yeah,
Get the
you're
guitar.
almost always right. And so it's like the Lord was on your side today. I'm telling you.
Almost so.
And so
I think you can say that we in the beginning we beat it out. We got our boxing gloves because Andrew and I are very strong-minded people. We have our opinions and we're very strong at them. And I'm emotional, okay? I am. And when I'm so caught up in this opinion, it can and I've learned how to, it is so important as wives to submit to our husbands and to let them lead. It is.
Good.
And I had to learn that in the beginning of our marriage. But honestly, sometimes it's just good to just talk about it. Just talk,
Yeah.
and sometimes we get spicy about it. It happens. There's a lot of spice happening in the car. And you're going hard, and your tone is not always the best. I can attest, my tone is not always the best. But then after we have hashed it out and we just let it all out, all the cards on the table, it's we understand that it was almost like that rush. It all came out. We're fine now. There's a peace. Now we make that decision. Okay, Andrew, you were right about this decision. We're gonna go full force and we're coming into agreement and we're gonna be in unity. I
Yeah.
think even in ministry, like I said, we're very strong people, especially in ministry, in ideas and and doing stuff like that. And on the spot, when you're having to make decisions, learning how to operate in peace, I think is one of the biggest thing. And realizing, okay, I know there's a little bit of tension, but we're just gonna operate in peace and we're gonna come into unity. Because there's so many things that just pop up, decisions that you have to kind of make on the fly, and learning how to trust each other and trusting the leadership that just supporting one another is a big thing, and not throwing each other underneath the bus. If you do do something and it didn't really work out, and you as a spouse knew that it would not have worked out, but you let it go. And so I think it's pretty wild. I think problem solving is always going to be something that you're going to have to work out, and walk through with your spouse in life. So
Agreed. And you know what? Bringing up that ministry aspect, that's a lot of where focus gets totally messed up, because there's a constant pull in life. So you have an
Yeah.
automatic connection to your best friend's spouse that you
Yeah.
have to honor. So any ministry decision that dishonors your spouse is an immediate red flag, because
That's good.
we cannot have ministry above a relationship with our spouse.
That's
Definitely
good. Yep.
it's him, spouse, family, ministry. And a lot of times that's where that breakdown is. I'm
Yeah.
just going to be transparent. Starting in youth ministry, I was kind of thrust into youth ministry, but it was such a long passion. There was such a fire for me that I was all in. And about 3-4 years in, I mean, we did everything as a family. So our kids went, my ex, when he was married at the time, we all went. So, I mean, it was family doing the ministry, but I allowed that to become the head point of my
Mm,
life as opposed to giving back. So, like when I met her, and you realize, like that Damon Thompson quotes just relived for me all the time.
mm,
I choose to run wide open. Now, being more handicapped, not being able to do that, you appreciate the fact when you can, but my heart is I'm all in. Every time, I don't want to leave anything. Even in ministry, it was go in, blow up, let the Lord do whatever he wants to do. And when you leave, I don't want to reserve. If I don't get invited back, I don't want to have left something in the tank. I want it all out for
mm.
him every single time.
That's
Mhm.
good.
It needs to be the same way in relationship here first. If this can't be
Mm.
going on
That's
first, we
good.
don't deserve to be in a platform of ministry, because hurt
Yep.
people hurt people. And so there is times, obviously, you got to iron it out. And I love what both of you sharing. You're right on. It's very easy to be spicy, and I am very spicy at times too. And it's hard for me. Like we'll come in, she comes in, and I'm in the middle of work. Is so stressful and chaos for me. And it's like I gotta have probably an hour to detune before I interact, because I want to interact out of love, not out of frustration from work.
That's
Mhm.
good.
Even so in ministry, because ministry, the demand, people don't
Yes.
understand. Your wife now is, or husband, depend on what role, and if you're not both in, both are being pulled by life, both being pulled by your relationship with one another, and both being pulled by ministry demands. So that
Mm,
organizational piece is over the top difficult. And for me, I had to learn when to say no. And honestly, I got to attribute that to her, because there's times where it's okay and I feel okay, let's go, we're doing it. But for her, it's not okay, because she is spent and exhausted and we need to recoup. And that is healthy. So
yeah.
you got to keep that in mind at all times. I just thought
That's
that was a
good.
nugget to put out there for those watching that are involved in ministry. Please,
Mm,
everything else, honor your best friend and your mate. This teammate right here is the armor
mm,
on your side. You go run into a
Yeah.
war without anything on the back, and you take a sneak shot, you're damaged goods until you are healed or restored or whatever. But we need to honor, and we need to be the same way for our mate. We got their backside regardless of the conflict.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know,
Good.
I love also another book that I love to read a lot is Keep Your Love On. And you know, it specifies a lot of your connections and your boundaries. And it basically shows like how you interact in all those different areas and those different types of relationships, different types of access that you're giving people. You know, but it talks about towards the end a life of when you're in the ministry and also your boundaries. And they were saying if you have no boundaries, then you don't actually have ministry, you have chaos.
Mm.
And I was like, and I read all
Mhm.
the examples he was given. I was like, I've seen that before. I was
Mm,
like, and that is 100% correct. Because if you can't tend to your home, you can't tend to your family's life, you can't even the one-on-one things God wants to do with you. You know, I remember reading that book it's been like the first time about 4 or 5 years ago. Actually, no, we're almost married 6 years, so it was about 7 years ago. Um, I remember reading that book and I was like, I've seen that in family. I've earlier on in that time when I would help out in ministry at other churches, I would see that. I see that if we do not have boundaries, not everybody's um emergency is your emergency. And there are
That's
times
right.
where you
Oh
have
yeah.
to where there are times where you do have to get up, drop what you're doing, and go tend to your people. And then there are times where it's their emergency, but honestly, God's like, hey, they're going to figure it out. I'm with them, give them a little bit of advice, but you need to spend time with your family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And,
true.
because you have to say no because you also have your yes. And your yes, will push away your no's. And if you basically your yes will protect, well, your yes will define your no's, and your no's will protect your yes.
I think I love what you said, Brian, about ministry and like relationships and marriage and how like it's like you're like your partners, your friendship, like your friends. That's the most important relationship through it all. And I think like even that is there's a big thing going on of like a really anointed ministers like coming together and then they not like lasting, having that longevity of like of their relationship and their marriage. I think like we have seen so much and it grieves our hearts. And to be honest, we are still learning how to even do that together. Because I think we were at a place where we were like so independent. Um and like even ministry that we're learning even how to navigate that as like pastors now. Because when Andrew and I were first pastors, it was like a whole new, it was like kids with like 16-year-olds for me. Andrew, I mean, he probably is a little bit more older and more advanced, but like we just got a new car and like we're excited and but then you realize you're
Joyriding.
taking out for a joyride and you're like, oh my goodness, but then you realize, oh, I didn't know we're having to work all through this kinks of managing ministry and like our marriage and making sure that's healthy. And then now I think we've learned a lot from the past on what we don't want to do again, like what we're not going to repeat again. And it's like it's almost like when you decide to say yes to the call of God in your life, the enemy puts extra sometimes even heat and pokes the things that like you are still healing at or still going through and stuff like that. And so it was actually really cool. Like we went to the send and like Andrew and I, our hearts were like, okay, Lord, like teach us how to do ministry together. Like let us have like a fresh perspective of what that looks like. Not that we're not doing ministry together, but like in a deeper revelation on how we can do it and really cleave to one another
Yeah.
and like honor each other. And there was a point in worship and we were like we had our hands held together up high and I felt the fire of God just hit like my to the top of my head to the soul to the soles of my feet. I felt the fire of God, and like it was. And the thing is that I was there to sing the whole time. It wasn't until we grabbed hands and we were in unity before the Lord, and it was just like a fresh. It was like a fresh, like I don't know how to describe it. It was a fresh like unity that the Lord put in our hearts, even at the sin. And I believe we're gonna see marriages like that again in ministry, that they're gonna receive that refreshing, and that's and through their healthy marriages is gonna birth revivals in a healthy way. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and I don't know, we still have a long road ahead of us. We've only been married just almost 6 years, and so there's a lot of still of learning still to do. But it was just like I know it seems so simple, but it's for me, it's like such a strong truth. It's like we can independently be strong and good at things, but that doesn't mean we're necessarily good in those things together because we haven't been working on them together. Um, and it's like for me, I can know my word independently, and it's like, and I know like my insights that the Lord's given me on this area, and then April, she can have her insights of the word over there, but it's like doing it together. We could be kind of like all over the place with it and not on the same page, so to say. And and it's okay to be unique, but it's better to be in union. And so that's it. So that's one thing the Lord has been showing me, like, our prayer life can be good independently, but it can be unique independently, but it's better when we are in union.
Together.
Yeah. And so I know it sounds simple, but it's been a heavier truth to me. It's like, you can do things unique, but it's better if you do it together. It's kind of like that statement that I think of, like, with the team all the time. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with others.
Mhm.
And if you want to go far in
Yeah.
your relationship, be together in your relationship.
Mhm.
And also I think that ministry can become an idol. And you can get so stargaze at the idea of ministry when it was really about ministering to the Lord. That's what really ministering to the Lord
So good.
first. And I love that with Benny Hinn, he would say that he would just spend time with God, and that's how he was in ministry. That was his first ministry, like spending time with God. He was the one person that he wanted to minister to. And I think that even then, like, if we can destroy the idea of superstar ministry and just yank it down
Yeah.
and like realize that it's not really about how many people you're going to impact, how many people you're going to do it. It's really about the heart of God and being together. I think we'll see a lot more happening now.
We sow, we water, but God brings the increase.
Yep.
So it's whatever He wants to do. So what's the next section? What's the next topic?
Sorry, what super embarrassing thing did one of you say around one another's family?
I remember I was telling my mom when I met her. My mom, she was the best thing ever. Her hair was on fire. She's like, "What?" I'm like, literally, like the burning bush. It was on her head. It's unbelievable. Where's she from? Finley. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like her features real small. Her head's real tiny." Because it's smaller than mine because I got a big head. And she's like, "Finley or
Said Finland.
Finland?" And I'm like, "Finland." She's like, "Does she have an accent?" I'm like, "No, not really." Well, it was Finley, but I was so stargaze blown away by the fire on the head. And she finally told me, I'm like, "Finland. Wow, man, that's like incredible." That's blowing my mind. So all along my mom's thinking there's this international.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for being here. And let's pray real quick. Father, we just thank you for this time that we had with the podcast,
Yes, Lord.
Fuel the Flame Live with relationship material. God, we just thank you that we seek you first. You're number one in our lives. We just bless those that are listening. God, we bless the relationships. God, even the people that are listening for future relationships. We just pray that you have your will and you have your way, God. We thank you for all that you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
We
It's been
love
great.
you
It's been great.
guys.
We had a great time.
It's pretty fun.
Guys.
Stay happily married, everyone.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to this week's Fuel the Flame from Newly Awakened Ministries. You can follow Newly Awakened Ministries on Facebook and Instagram. You can also connect with us through newlyawakenedministries.com.